So you had like a bunch of success when you were building your way up from middle school, elementary school, all the way into high school. You were a couple times state placer. What was your schedule like when you were younger, and how were you able to build on those results? So you started off when you were in fourth grade. You had your dad in your corner. You were trying to make your dad proud. You started really embracing the sport through all that effort and through seeing the individualized aspect of it and embracing that individualized aspect of the sport. How are you able to transition that over into bigger results like a state placing or a national ranking? And when did you start seeing those results?
Yeah, so I wasn't the best when I first started, but throughout my career, my entire wrestling career, I've just seen so many guys that were better than me. You know what I mean? As you go from middle school to high school to college and then so on and so forth, guys kind of fluctuate in and out, and guys thought that you thought were gonna be like the best ever. They just kind of disappear, and it was really just about consistency. And from fourth to sixth grade, I made big jumps. And in sixth grade, I started getting the attention of our high school wrestling coach, John Leone, who's, in my opinion, one of the best wrestling coaches ever in the state of New York. I mean, he was an old dude. He was a hardo, so he could be an asshole at times. But looking back, I really appreciate the principles that he instilled in me. That I still take most of them today. But anyways, in sixth grade, I ended up becoming the manager for the varsity team. So I was training with the varsity team every single day at those practices. And then on the side, I would go to this wrestling club called G2. Started out with the Gillespie brothers, Gregor Gillespie and Torsten Gillespie. It kind of transitioned to just Gregor taking over for a little bit. And everybody in the area went there. I mean, big time names. I mean, Yanni, he's the biggest name that's come out of our area. But there are countless state champs, Division One wrestlers, national qualifiers, national All Americans that have come out of G2. So I was just wrestling with absolute studs every single day there. And then I was also getting my ass whooped by the high school kids who are older than me. So I was just getting the highest level at my age group. And then also guys at that high school level. And I realized, like, oh, they're not the best high school guys, but the jump from middle school to high school is still huge. So it was probably my sixth grade year was when I made that big jump. And that's probably when I first realized, like, okay, if I just put the work in and stay consistent, like, I will keep climbing up. Maybe I won't be the best, but I'll still keep climbing in that direction.
You had the exposure with those elite athletes. Plus, you got Gregor Gillespie, a former UFC guy, right? So that probably ignited the fire later down the road. When you were going through the mix and started knocking off those guys and through all that exposure at working with all these high school athletes when you were in middle school, what were some of the principles that you kind of lived by, or how are you kind of embracing that environment in order to push your performance forward? So obviously you get the looks from the high school guys when you're in middle school and you see the results that they're getting or the way that they're applying their techniques and their work ethic to the sport and getting results. What were some of the things you learned from being exposed to those, especially as a middle schooler, exposed to those higher performing athletes in that high school realm? What did you see they were doing?
Yeah, there's a lot of principles that I got exposed to, mainly from my coach. I mean, there was a lot of really good wrestlers at my high school, but looking back, I don't think any of them had the same level of like attention to detail or just passion for the sport of wrestling. Like throughout my whole life, I've always just I watch as much wrestling as I can. I know all the best guys over the last 20 years. I've watched every single big match of Jordan Burroughs, David Taylor, Kyle Dake, all that stuff. So I feel like my high school coach instilled the hard work. And then over time, as I matured and got a little older, I kind of took on that analytical and like breaking down just how the sport works in general. But my coach always used to tell me the biggest quotes. One of my favorites was, you either take on adversity or adversity takes you on. And that's the biggest one to me is anytime you run into an issue, you can either avoid it, you can make excuses, which is also just avoiding it, or you can go, okay, I'm not getting what I want to get. or I have this problem that I can't overcome right now. How do I overcome it? You just start thinking of ways to figure out how to beat the problem, right? It could be something as big as I want to make the state tournament, I want to place in the state tournament, or something as small as, man, I can't finish the single leg and I keep getting there and I can't finish it. So it's like I look at every single thing that comes up in my life as adversity. And another one is hard work beats talent when talent doesn't work hard. And when talent works hard, that's when you get somebody super special. And my coach always used to say that. And it was just all these quotes. And also just the idea of, hey, I saw Kyle Dake hit this at the NCAA tournament. We're going to work on that. I saw David Taylor hit this in the NCAA tournament. I saw Jordan Burroughs hit this here. I saw Dan Gable 20 years ago hit this move. And it just kind of lit a light bulb up for me like, oh, all I have to do is analyze what the best guys are doing, figure out drills that I can do to work on the same things, and then just try to piece myself together as like a puzzle of all of these wrestlers that have existed over time and all of these techniques that existed over time. And then you take a step back, you can take that same principle and apply it to anything in life. It's pretty simple when you just take a logical approach to everything that you do instead of being emotional or having an ego in certain situations. The point is that I knew that as long as I worked hard and worked smart, that I'll continue to get better no matter what.
That's the one thing that's great with this younger generation of wrestlers too. I remember when I was in rec wrestling or in middle school, even in high school, our coach would like sit us down before practice and throw an Iowa wrestling video on, or like Penn State, and we'd see these guys and how they were working out and going through their practices, their mindset, their performance, what the metrics were that they were trying to achieve. And we were able to reference ourselves through these quote unquote pros, or even though they're amateurs or like higher echelon athletes, and then see how that was going to relate to our style or our experience with the sport. And then on top of it, going out there, getting the experience and the compounding that experience into learning what was going on, what you're good and bad at, allowed you to jump levels really quick.